The day Earth fell. The sky burned the day Earth died. Captain Elias Ward stood on the shattered roof of a hospital in New York, watching alien warships blot out the sun. The Vorin fleet moved with chilling precision, sleek black holes cutting through the clouds, their weapons reducing skyscrapers to molten slag. The ground shook as orbital strikes turned blocks into craters, firestorms ripping through streets. Commands gone. Ward's comm crackled, static and panic. All units retreat. The transmission cut off in a hiss of white noise. Ward already knew there was nowhere to retreat to. He tightened his grip on the battered rifle slung over his shoulder. All around him, people screamed, civilians, soldiers, medics, running for cover that didn't exist. He had been a soldier for 12 years, seen combat zones in deserts and frozen wastes. But nothing compared to this. This wasn't a battle. It was extermination. Ward had one thought anchoring him to sanity. Get to them. His wife, Sarah. His daughter, Emily. He had promised he'd come back. He always had. The hospital was already a ruin, windows shattered, walls scorched. The emergency shelter below had collapsed in the last bombardment. Ward clawed through concrete and steel with his bare hands, shouting their names until his voice was raw. He found them, or what was left. Sarah's hand still clutched Emily's tiny backpack. Dust-covered, burned. Ward knelt there, fingers trembling as the distant sound of alien thunder echoed in the skies. Something in him broke in that moment. Not loudly, not with screaming rage, but quietly, like glass shattering under weight. Hours later, he stood in the ruins with nothing but his rifle and a soldier's stubborn refusal to die. The Vorin came next, towering, insectoid figures in dark armor, sweeping the streets, executing survivors, rounding up the few they didn't kill. Ward hid in the wreckage, pressing himself into the rubble, silent as a corpse. One of the aliens passed close enough that he could see the faint pulse of light beneath its chitin plating. He held his breath, waited, survived. When the killing stopped, the Vorin ships rose again, their engines rumbling like thunder gods in the clouds. Cities were reduced to smoking skeletons. Nations fell silent. Within a month, Earth was declared pacified. The Vorin broadcast their triumph across the stars. Humanity, they said, was extinct. But under the rubble of a dead hospital, a soldier dug himself free. Blooded, broken, breathing. Captain Elias Ward looked up at the blackened sky, ash falling like snow, and whispered to no one but the ghosts of his world. They think it's over. He picked up his rifle. They are wrong. The last ghost of Earth. The world stayed dead long after the Vorin stopped bombing. For months, Elias Ward lived like a shadow in the ruins. He scavenged food from burnt-out markets, drank rainwater collected in shattered gutters, and wrapped his wounds in strips torn from scorched bedsheets. He spoke to no one. There was no one left to speak to. Every day, Vorin patrols stalked the ruins, their ships hovering overhead like vultures. They hunted survivors, rounding up the last humans for transport, slaves, experiments, trophies. Ward learned their patterns, where they landed, when they swept streets. He hid in basements when he had to, under piles of debris when he didn't. He wasn't living. He was enduring. But enduring turned into something else the day he found the supply convoy. Ward had tracked the alien hovercraft for hours, crawling on his belly through the rubble. The Vorin weren't cautious. They believed the world was theirs. That arrogance cost them. The last member of his squad had taught him one thing before dying: never fight fair. Ward waited until dusk. Then he struck. He rigged a crude trap, an old propane tank, a scavenged battery, and a spark wire. When the Vorin transport hovered over it, the tank ignited in a violent blast, flipping the craft and scattering the insectoid soldiers. Ward moved like a phantom through smoke and ash. One alien fell to a knife between its armor plates, another to a single shot to the head. The rest fled into the ruins, leaving their craft smoldering. Ward stood among their corpses, chest heaving, a streak of soot across his face. He'd killed before, in war zones, in missions. But this was different. This was survival and vengeance. Inside the wrecked hovercraft, he found weapons he couldn't name, crates of strange technology, and, most importantly, flight controls. Ward's hand traced the alien console. He didn't know the symbols, but he understood the basics. Engines, power, navigation. By dawn, the hovercraft was airborne again, patched, jury-rigged, and barely holding together. Ward renamed it the Revenant. He learned to fly by trial and error, crashing it 3 times before mastering the alien systems. He learned to repair its engines with scavenged metal. He learned to modify its weapons. And then he made a choice. Ward could run, hide, live out his days in some forgotten asteroid belt. Instead, he charted a course for Mars, where the Vorin had set up a relay station. He struck at night, slipping into their base, planting charges, and vanishing before the first explosion lit the sky. The Vorin called it a malfunction. Ward smiled for the first time since the day Earth burned. "They think we're gone," he whispered to the empty cockpit. He adjusted the controls, eyes cold and sharp. "Good. The galaxy starts to burn." The first relay station on Mars was only the beginning. Within weeks, the malfunctions spread, outposts went dark, supply ships vanished, and unexplained explosions rocked Vorin installations. What the Empire called accidents, Elias Ward called practice. He learned faster than they could adapt. Ward turned captured drones into weapons, programming them with scavenged Vorin code to deliver explosives to key targets. He cracked the rudiments of their language, just enough to manipulate security systems and falsify maintenance orders. When a Vorin freighter exploded over Titan, its crew thought they were receiving fuel, until Ward's trap ignited the cargo bay. Each mission made him sharper, harder. He stopped counting how many Vorin he killed. By the 3rd month, Ward stopped scavenging Earth for supplies. He didn't need to. He was raiding Vorin depots now, slipping past guards, stripping their arsenals, and leaving painted messages on walls in crude human script. For Earth, the word spread like infection. At first, the Vorin dismissed them. Just vandalism. A sick joke. But when an entire convoy vanished in the void, its wreckage later found orbiting their own capital moon with 4 Earth carved into the hull, whispers started. They called him the Ghost of Earth. Ward liked the name. He kept moving, never staying in one system for more than a few days. The Revenant, patched, scarred, and bristling with stolen weapons, became his base, his shield, his home. He lived in its cockpit, ate in its cargo bay, and dreamed in its engine hum. And his strikes got bolder. When Ward learned of the Vorin fleet shipyard orbiting Dranthis 4, he didn't hesitate. The shipyard produced 100 warships a month. Destroying it would mean crippling their navy for years. It took him 2 weeks to plan. He posed as a maintenance drone, using stolen access codes to drift into the outer docks. He waited until shift change, then detonated charges in the fuel lines, one after another, until the shipyard became a sun. The blast lit the void for hours. Thousands of half-built ships, millions of tons of alloy, gone. Vorin transmissions filled the stars, panicked and frantic. It's him, the human, the ghost. Ward sat in his cockpit, soot-streaked and exhausted, watching the wreckage spin into the abyss. A fleet marshal's voice came over intercepted comms, tight with fear. "We underestimated them. It's not an army. It's one man." Ward allowed himself the smallest smile. One man, one human, and for the first time, the Vorin realized what that meant. One human versus the Empire. The Vorin stopped pretending his attacks were accidents. By the time the 3rd shipyard burned and 2 governors were assassinated in their own palaces, the Empire broadcast one clear message across the stars. The Ghost of Earth must be destroyed. They laid a trap. Ward saw it coming. The fake convoy hauling fuel cells, the too easy intel leak about the location of a Vorin dreadnought fleet. It reeked of bait, and he went anyway. The Revenant dropped out of FTL into a dead zone between stars, straight into the teeth of an entire armada. Hundreds of warships, their hulls glinting like obsidian knives. The comms lit up in guttural alien tones. Translation scrolled across his stolen display. "Surrender, human. Your war ends here." Ward didn't answer. Instead, he uploaded a virus, months in the making, into their network. He'd pieced it together from scavenged code, fragments of alien AI, and his own stubborn genius. It was crude, unstable, and lethal. Within minutes, chaos spread. Warships turned on each other as systems failed. Cannons misfired, shields dropped, targeting software inverted friend and foe. One dreadnought vaporized its own escorts before realizing what it had done. Ward didn't have to fire a single shot. He just watched as the Empire's finest fleet tore itself apart. But that wasn't enough. He piloted the Revenant straight through the melee, weaving between debris and wreckage, planting bombs on command ships, triggering chain reactions. The Vorin comms turned to screaming static. When the last surviving admiral tried to flee, Ward sent one message. For Earth. The Revenant's cannons lit up, and the admiral's ship vanished in a ball of fire. The trap became the Empire's grave. Within weeks, word of the disaster spread. Colonies rebelled. Slave worlds rose up. Supply lines crumbled without their fleet. The Vorin's military command fractured. Some tried to regroup, others fled, and many simply surrendered. An empire that had spanned hundreds of worlds unraveled because they missed one man. Ward sat in the Revenant's cockpit, orbiting the Vorin capital. Below, the once mighty planet burned, its shipyards in ruins, its palaces collapsing into ash. He thought of Sarah, of Emily, of Earth, and for the first time in years, he let himself breathe. He keyed the comm one last time, broadcasting across every channel, every frequency the Vorin still had. You took my world. I took your galaxy. Then he cut the transmission, leaned back in his seat, and stared at the burning horizon. The ghost of Earth was done, but the legend of the one human they didn't kill was only just beginning.